Немає достатньо ресурсу, але ми не маємо обирати. Ми б'ємо по військовій цілі або по енергетиці. Він продає цю енергетику. Він продає нафту. Так це енергетика чи це військова ціль? Чесно, те саме. Він продає нафту, бере гроші, вкладає в зброю. Цією зброєю вбиває українців. Що повинен робити українець? Два шляхи. Ми будуємо зброю і б'ємо по їх зброї, або ми б'ємо по джерелу нарощування і народження їх грошей. А джерело – це енергетика у них. Ось що відбувається. Тут не можна порівнювати військові цілі. Все це для нас законні номер один, військові номер два цілі. Ну і хто до нас міг таке зробити? Нам з русскими ніхто.
This is my video update on this Sunday afternoon, February the 8th, coming to you from Larnaca, Cyprus. Let's talk about some news and a quick update on the assassination attempt of General Alexeyev, who is in the hospital making a recovery in Moscow. And the Russian authorities, they have captured and returned back to Moscow one of the plotters, one of the assassins. I believe there are 3 suspects in total. I actually think they've caught a second guy as well, the Russian authorities. But this guy, this assassin, he fled to the UAE, which is very interesting given that the talks between Russia, Ukraine, and the United States were taking place in the UAE, and the person that they tried to murder was the second in command to Russia's chief negotiator at the Abu Dhabi UAE talks. So the one guy that they caught made his way to the United Arab Emirates. The UAE, they worked with the Russian authorities. They caught the guy, and he's been returned now to Moscow. And there's a third person who fled to, surprise, surprise, Ukraine. She was scoping out the general for a while, actually got an apartment 2 floors down from the general in Moscow, and she was following his every moves, understanding his habits, and she got away. Looks like she made it to Ukraine. So that's a quick update on that story. I imagine that once this investigation wraps up, we're going to find out that it was indeed the Ukrainian regime or parts of the Ukrainian intel services that put this entire assassination plan together. That would be my guess, and I'm confident that that's exactly what's going to happen. But we had Mark Rutte, who was in Kiev the other day, speaking at the Rada. And Rutte, he talked about more escalation, more weapons. I know it's tough for the people of Ukraine. I know that your energy system has been demolished. By the way, the Russian military launched more strikes into Ukraine's energy systems across the country. They hammered Odessa, I believe the Nafto gas facilities in Odessa. But anyway, Rutte was at the parliament trying to convince them to continue to fight and to continue to escalate in this conflict against Russia, and he also told them something else, which has caused some doubts and some fears with the Kiev regime. At least their belief that if they can get NATO into the conflict, then they can trigger some sort of Article 5. That was the plan that the Kiev regime was hoping for. But we are now finding out that Rutte, when he was in Kiev the other day, he told the Zelensky regime that yeah, NATO troops could enter Ukraine if there is a deal. Rutte actually said in his speech that once there is some sort of a ceasefire or a deal, then coalition of the willing NATO forces would enter Ukraine by land, by sea, by air. But he also told them that once NATO, if NATO forces enter Ukraine and the Russian military annihilates them, that's not going to trigger an Article 5. And this left many in Kiev shocked, disappointed, doubtful about the commitments from their NATO Collective West partners. Yeah, they didn't like the fact that Rutte told them, you know what? NATO could be entering Ukraine, NATO forces, military from member states could be joining the conflict, but if they are targeted by the Russian military, that will not trigger an Article 4 or an Article 5 of the NATO Charter. According to Rutte, this would be considered an attack on NATO troops outside allied countries and would not result in an automatic response under the alliance agreement articles. So much for trying to trigger Article 5 by getting NATO forces into Ukraine. So Orban, he gave a speech yesterday, and he said that if Ukraine continues to push for a ban on Russian energy to Hungary, then Ukraine cannot be considered as an opponent. They will actually be considered an enemy of Hungary. Orban said, as long as Ukraine demands that Hungary be cut off from cheap Russian energy, Ukraine is not simply our opponent. Ukraine is our enemy. You know, there was an ethnic Hungarian man who had a health problem, I believe in the Transcarpathia region, and he was taken by the military recruiters of Ukraine, and he was sent to a training facility and then to go to the front lines. And he had a breathing problem, and he died because of his illness. Even though it was made the Ukraine, what are they called? The TCC guys. Those thugs, they were made aware of his condition, but they didn't care, and they still pushed him to go to the front lines. And he collapsed and died. And this is an ethnic Hungarian, maybe a citizen of Ukraine, maybe also a citizen of Hungary. I'm not exactly sure of the details, but this really upset Orban and his administration. This is not the first ethnic Hungarian that has been rounded up, thrown into a van and sent to the front lines, only later to be killed. So an enemy, according to Orban. That is what Ukraine will be considered if they continue to push for a ban on cheap Russian energy. Babis of Czech Republic, he gave an interview and he said that it was Boris Johnson that effed up a true chance at peace back in 2022. Babis said that was as close to peace as we've seen, and probably as we're ever going to get, at least a diplomatic solution. And it was there. It was signed. It was agreed on. And then he said that Boris Johnson ruined it, sabotaged it, and he's right. But Babis's point was that the Europeans have to start to talk to the Russians. He said that there's going to be no way that there's going to be any solution in the conflict in Ukraine unless the Europeans start to negotiate with Russia. Europe must negotiate with Putin. We cannot stop the conflict in Ukraine alone. He also praised Trump for opening up dialogue with Russia. So that's the message from Babis. As far as Iran goes, the possible conflict between the United States and Iran, it looks like we are getting close to a conflict. But Arachi, he said that, look, there's a deal that can be made. It's within reach to make a deal. As the negotiations wrapped up on Friday, Arachi gave many statements to the media, and he did say that a deal can be made if the U.S. approach is respectful, fair, and equitable. So there could be a deal if the U.S. approach is respectful, fair, and equitable. That means there's going to be no deal. But anyway, Arachi said that this time around, Iran is not going to be tricked by the United States. They are going to continue to negotiate with the U.S., but they are going to act as if there are no negotiations taking place, so that the Trump administration does not trick them into believing that diplomacy is going to work, and they let their guard down, and then the United States attacks. This time around, Arachi says that Iran is going to be prepared and they are expecting an attack, but they will be negotiating. We neither trust them nor rule out the possibility of deception and trickery. In fact, we fully anticipate it. In all the meetings, I have said this might be a deception. Please let no one be deceived. Everyone should go about their work as if we are not negotiating at all, whether in the armed forces, the government, or anywhere else. Yeah, that's the right approach to take if you're Iran. Try to negotiate the settlement. Let's hope and pray that they negotiate a diplomatic solution to this and we can avoid a conflict. But anticipate a strike from the United States. It's going to be very difficult for the Trump administration to pull back from striking Iran in much the same way that it was difficult for the United States to pull back from some sort of an operation in Venezuela. And with Iran, or at least in the case of Iran, the U.S. military is not going to be able to pull off some sort of capture of the leader of Iran using the discombobulator or something like that. If the U.S. goes after Iran, it is going to be a pretty big strike. At least that's what I think is going to have to happen if they're going to try to take down the Iranian regime or conduct some sort of decapitation strike. You're not going to be able to go in with a discombobulator with Iran. Anyway, if the discombobulator even exists, discombobulator is probably code for cash briberies. So Canada and France, they opened up a consulate in Greenland in order to show support for Greenland and for Denmark. The statements from the officials of Greenland were that they appreciate the show of solidarity and unity from Canada and from France, but while the whole Greenland thing has calmed down, at least for now, not much talk about Trump taking Greenland. The authorities in Greenland say that the issue with Greenland is far from over. They are conducting negotiations at the moment, or at least that's what Trump said. Some sort of talks and negotiations are taking place between Greenland and Denmark and the United States, but we haven't had any updates as to how those talks are progressing. So France and Canada open up consulates in Greenland amid Trump threats. Should we do an Epstein update? There's so much news about Epstein, so many documents that keep on coming out from the 3 million document release on Epstein. That's Aegean. That's coming in from Greece. I know that flight very well. So let's see what do we have going on with the Epstein documents. We have a former French culture minister, Jack Lang, former French cultural minister, Jack Lang. Okay, he was then appointed to head up the Arab World Institute, which is some sort of office run by the French Foreign Ministry. So he was the culture minister, and then he was put into another job running some culture ministry or culture organization. You see how the revolving door works for all of the globalist elites. They're in one position, then they get appointed to another position, another cushy job after they finish their tenure at some ministry job or something like that, or government job. And he was featured in the Epstein documents along with his daughter, and his daughter is some media executive in France as well. And they've resigned now. They have resigned from their respective positions. Jack Lang, former French culture minister, has resigned as president of the Arab World Institute, the French Foreign Affairs Ministry said on Saturday after revelations of his past contacts with Epstein and the launch of a financial investigation. He has denied wrongdoing. Mr. Jack Lang, Jack Lang. And this is creating some anger in Europe, the whole Epstein thing, because they are claiming that the Epstein documents are bringing down, at least the European elites, they claim that the Epstein documents are bringing down all kinds of high-level European officials, but released by the US DOJ, but we're not seeing any American high-level officials being brought down by the Epstein document release. And this is upsetting the Europeans. The Epstein scandal is taking down Europe's political class. In the US, they're getting a pass as Europe moves to address its shame. It's highlighting the comparative lack of accountability in the US. And actually, Ro Khanna even posted on X about this. He said Britain has dethroned a prince, forced Mandelson to resign, and lost confidence in Stamer because of Thomas Massie and I forced the release of the Epstein files. What is America doing to hold the Epstein class accountable? We need to haul these powerful men before Congress. That's Wizz Air, I think. Looks like Wizz Air. Wizz Air coming from Budapest, I would guess. So Bill Clinton was not going to testify. Bill and Hillary. Then they said they want to testify, but they want it to be open, transparent, accessible to the public for everyone to listen to their testimony. But then I saw some documents from the Clintons' lawyers or their representatives walking back the demand from Clinton, saying he wants a public and open testimony in Congress, and it seems like they're just going back and forth, the Clintons with Congress, about them testifying. But yeah, there hasn't been any U.S. officials brought down from the Epstein files. That is true. That is very, very true. There are rumors which claim that Stamer may be resigning next week. That would be a big Zelensky curse, a Mandelson, Epstein curse. Mandelson, Epstein, Zelensky curse. I guess you needed all three of those curses to bring down 008 Keir Starmer, but there are rumors saying he's going to step down next week. But there are also reports which claim that Stamer is going to do no such thing, that 008 is not a quitter, he's a fighter. And when his back is against the wall, that is when he fights best. And so we are hearing reports from 10 Downing Street that Stamer and his team believe that the Mandelson scandal, the Epstein scandal, is survivable. It can be survivable inside Keir Starmer's efforts to stop a coup. The British leader is moving fast to calm his Labour colleagues as the Mandelson scandal threatens to engulf his premiership. It's a coup. It's not appointing a man who was connected to Epstein. That's not what's going on. What's going on is a coup. Poor Stamer, the victim. Yesterday I talked about Mandelson being the victim of Epstein. Mandelson telling the Times of UK that Epstein was a master manipulator and I fell for it. And now we're getting reports that Stamer and his team believe that this is survivable, the Mandelson scandal, because what Labour is trying to do is a coup of Stamer. They're trying to coup d'etat him, to replace him. And Stamer has admitted that he knew about Mandelson's connections to Epstein. He knew everything about Mandelson's connections to Epstein, and yet he still appointed him as the UK ambassador to the US. But the plan, according to Politico, in order to prevent this Labour Party coup, is to get in front of the investigation that is taking place with Mandelson in the UK. And Keir Starmer is going to try to address the whole scandal around Mandelson before the investigators put out their findings. So that's what Stamer and his team plan to do in order to preserve his premiership. If Stamer survives this, then he's going to be prime minister for the next 2-3 years. Nothing's going to bring Stamer down if he survives this one. We'll see. So I guess we'll do a clown world today, and we'll wrap up this video. I don't even have. Do I have any clown worlds? We had elections in Japan, snap elections, which took place actually, and it looks like Takaichi and her party is going to win big. Snap elections after 4 months in power. She called snap elections, and it looks like that was the right move. Japan's snap election is set to deliver a landslide for the ruling coalition led by Prime Minister Takaichi and the LDP. Exit polls project the LDP alone winning 274 to 328 seats, far above the 233-seat majority threshold. Together with the Japan Innovation Party, the coalition is set to secure 300 to 366 seats, potentially achieving a 2/3 supermajority in the House of Representatives. So she made the right political call. 4 months into office, snap elections, and she's going to come out of this much more powerful than where she was before the elections. So there was an interview of Epstein's, not Epstein's, though Epstein's, Epstein's former girlfriend, I believe, for 6 years or 7 years. Something weird happened on X, and an account connected to her. I don't know if this is real or fake. I'm thinking this is fake, but they say the account was hers. It started to post stuff on X yesterday. It put out 3-4 posts. I'm not going to read you the posts because I don't think this is real, but it has a lot of people talking about what is going on. Anyway, that account seemed suspended or dormant or something, and then all of a sudden it came back to life. I forgot her name. Let me see if I have it bookmarked. But Prince Andrew's former girlfriend, she was speaking to UK media, and to LBC, and she said, I don't even think Epstein's dead anymore. He might be alive. He might be in Israel. That's what she said. There's a lot of fake images. AI created images, because you can see the Gemini watermark in the bottom right-hand corner where they claim that Epstein's walking around Tel Aviv. Those are all fake. Very bad fakes, actually. But there are a lot of people now talking about how, you know what? Epstein survived. He is not dead. Karina Shuliak was his girlfriend of 6 or 7 years. And all of a sudden, her ex-account, allegedly, this is her ex-account, joined in November 2017. All of a sudden, it came back to life. Her last post was an hour ago at the time of recording this video. Only if I can say everything without censorship on live on X, Alex Jones posted to this account, and he said, I appreciate you having the courage to speak out and would very much like to have you on my broadcast ASAP. That's what Alex Jones posted. And then she replies to Alex Jones, or this account replies to Alex Jones and says, only if I can say everything without censorship and on live on X. Maybe this isn't some sort of a psyop or some sort of a prank or something. I don't know. Very, very strange stuff. So what else? A light news day today, it seems, which is not good. Usually when you have these types of news days, something big happens the next day. Anyway, Pavel Durov, he posted on X that officials with the lowest approval ratings in the world, Macron, Stamer, Merz, and Sanchez, are the loudest champions of social media bans for teens and misinformation crackdowns. Yeah, they're all trying to crack down on social media. They're trying to crack down on X. X is going to be banned in the EU. That's coming. That is coming. They're going to try to ban X. But Merz's approval is getting lower and lower. I was reading an article today which said that Merz is already at historic lows, his approval rating, and now it's even lower than where it was a month or two ago. People are not happy with Merz and Bosch, the big company, German company, Bosch, very good company. They have a division that manufactures automotive parts, and they're not doing well. They're going to lay off 20,000 people. So things not looking good for Merz and for his coalition of the willing buddies. So all that's left for them to do is to start censoring, right? Start censoring, and that's how you're going to stay in power. Anyway, I don't have anything else to say for today. theduran.locals.com. We're on X, we're on Rumble, we're on Telegram. Go to Duran Shop, pick up some merch, and I will see everyone tomorrow. Also check us out on Substack as well. Take care.